If you're looking to dive deeper into the world of classic literature, then you've come to the right place. I've got a lineup of timeless masterpieces that are fun and easy to read as well, especially if you're a beginner. Hi guys, I'm Triya and I make videos about books, London and life. Let's get into it. The first book I want to talk about is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This novel was published in 1818 and Mary Shelley was famously only 19 years old when she wrote this. In case you don't know, it tells the story of Victor Frankenstein, a scientist who creates a living being from assembled human body parts. However, his creation, often mistakenly called Frankenstein, although it should be Frankenstein's monster, turns out to be this monstrous figure that brings devastation to Victor's life. As violence and intrigue follow the monster, Victor, the creator, chases it, trying to pick up the pieces. So this book has some really great horror elements, but also it's surprisingly gentle and philosophical. It records the pain of both the monster and the scientist, and it asks, what does it mean to be human? So, why read it? Well, Frankenstein is more than just a spine-chilling tale. It's a great classic for beginners, and it has a deep exploration of ethical boundaries and the human condition. Okay, so the next book I want to talk about is Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. This gothic romance chronicles the intense and tumultuous love between Catherine Earnshaw and Heathcliff, who is an orphan taken in by Catherine's family. This novel was written by Emily, one of the famous Brontë sisters, in 1847. The bond between Catherine and Heathcliff is profound, with Catherine proclaiming, "He's more myself than I am. Whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same." When societal pressures force Catherine to marry another, Heathcliff embarks on a path of vengeance that spans generations, affecting everyone around them. This is a really exciting read, and it makes you think about just how much can be justified in the name of love. For example, I will never forget when Heathcliff planned to open up his and Cathy's coffins so that they can embrace even in death. I don't know if you're a fan of Twilight, but the romance between Bella and Edward was heavily inspired by Cathy and Heathcliff. Okay, so the next book I want to talk about is William Golding's Lord of the Flies. So if you went to school in England, you may have studied this book in your English lessons, and while unfortunately sometimes studying a book in school can ruin it for you, but I studied this book when I was 13 and I actually really enjoyed it. And it's a book that's so good, it even survives the intense scrutiny that you put it through when you're studying. So in case you don't know, Lord of the Flies is a dystopian novel. It's about this group of British schoolboys who find themselves stranded on a deserted island after a plane crash. In their attempt to establish some kind of order, the societal structure quickly disintegrates into chaos and anarchy. This is a really great book if you enjoy stories like The Hunger Games or Battle Royale, and it was written in 1954. So this is a wonderfully exciting book, and it presents a chilling examination of human nature and the thin veneer of civilization. Interestingly, William Golding himself was a school teacher, so it makes you wonder whether he was drawing from his own experiences when he talked about the crazy and raucous things that these schoolboys got up to. The next book I want to talk about is an amazing one. It is Blindness by José Saramago. This is another amazing dystopian novel. It tells a story of a society where one by one all the inhabitants of the city start to go blind, except for one woman who narrates the story. In the dark, people think that they can get away with anything, but this one woman witnesses it all. As society unravels, this story delves into the depths of human behaviour in a crisis. It's filthy and unfiltered, and you'll definitely be on the edge of your seat, probably quite horrified. This book was written in 1995, which makes it the most modern book in this whole series, and it was written in Saramago's native language, which is Portuguese. And Saramago actually won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1997, which means I'm not the only person who thought this book was good. So what's interesting about the way this is written is that the whole story is told in these long, rambling sentences with no speech marks or visual markings of dialogue. So the experience you get is almost like your own eyes are feeling you, which means that you have to rely on sound alone. It's a really immersive experience to read this, and I remember the first time I read this book because it describes how people just are going about their lives and suddenly they go blind. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, is this going to happen to me as well? It's that realistic, and it draws you in that much that you really feel like it's going to happen to you. This book is actually one of my favourite books of all time, and I've also mentioned it in my favourite books of all time video, which you should check out. So the next one is a little bit of a change of pace. This is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. Set during the American Civil War, this beloved classic follows the lives of the four March sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth and Amy, as they navigate the challenges of growing up Pursuing Dreams and Finding Love. This book was originally published in 1868, but its take on love is relevant today. Fun fact, this novel was actually Rachel from Friends' favourite novel, and the book itself has a plot reveal which is so famously devastating that Rachel spoils it for Joey. And it's a huge deal. The sisters all have these really rich and distinct personalities, and their individual journeys offer a heartbreaking and emotional portrayal into family and growing up. Okay, so the next book I want to talk about is not technically a novel, but I do think it counts as classic literature, and that is The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle. So this is a collection of short stories which feature Sherlock Holmes, who is known for his sharp observation and deductive reasoning. And alongside his friend Dr. Watson, Holmes has solved mysteries that have captivated readers for generations. It was first published in 1892, and interestingly, Sherlock Holmes is listed in the Guinness World Records as the most portrayed human fictional character in all of literary and film history. I myself can think of at least 10 or 20 interpretations of Sherlock Holmes that I have seen. Some of them quite obvious, like BBC's Sherlock, which I really recommend if you haven't seen it. And also some of them a little bit more subtle, like House MD, the TV show, where the character House is based on Holmes, except he's a doctor that solves medical mysteries. Another really great interpretation is Feluda, who is a Bengali fictional character based on Sherlock Holmes. So Feluda, the novels, are written by the Bengali author and director Satyajit Ray, and the books have been translated into English, and there's films, which I really recommend as well. Okay, so the next book I want to talk about is Villette by Charlotte Brontë. This book was originally published in 1853, and you may know Charlotte Brontë as the author of Jane Eyre, which is a book I talked about in my previous video on classics. Villette is a book about a character called Lucy Snow. She is a poor young woman who becomes an English teacher in a school in Belgium. She is this fiercely independent young woman who has this secret desire to be loved. And because this is a gothic romance, it has literal ghosts which come back and haunt her. So Villette is a book that perfectly explores the feeling of having a crush on someone who knows nothing about you and doesn't like you back. Like many of these classics, Bronte's take on love, desire, and society remain relevant even today, which makes it such a great read that you can really get into even now. So those are all the books that I want to talk about today. That is 7 more literary classics that I think are perfect if you're just getting into reading them, or even if you've read loads but you haven't read these ones, then I recommend you check them out. Thank you so much for watching the video. Let me know which books you liked and which books you would recommend. Okay, see you in the next one. Bye.